Alright guys, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel and if you happen to enjoy this video. So Eddie Hearn basically feels that because of the way Andy Ruiz looks, and I'm talking about his physique, and Andy Ruiz is a guy that does not really look like a fighter. I mean, if you saw Andy Ruiz walking down the street on the beach without a shirt and you were not a boxing fan, you would not think this guy was a boxer, right? You would just look at him and be like, okay, he probably works at Nando's or something, right? He doesn't look like a boxer when it comes to his physique. I mean, when you think of boxers, you think of, guys who are in shape, ripped, have a six-pack or whatever. That's what you think. At least me. I never think of a overweight person when I think of boxers. So Eddie Hearn is saying he doesn't. The thing about the Andy Ruiz is he feels like he's worried about like how the casual boxing fans in New York, because this fight would take place obviously in New York, Madison Square Garden. He feels like if he makes Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua, the casual fans looking at that, if they don't know who Andy Ruiz is, I guess he feels like they'll look at him and they'll be like, okay, this Joshua guy, this unified champion is fighting this fat looking fighter. Now, obviously, when it comes to the hardcore boxing fans, we understand that just because a fighter is not ripped doesn't mean he can't fight, right? For example, hardcore boxing fans understand this. For example, Adam Kornacki is not body beautiful, right? Adam Kornacki does not have a six-pack. You look at him, he's fat. But me, you, your mama, your sister, we all know that Adam Kornacki can fight, right? We all know this, right? Because we've seen him fight. We see him lay guys out. Tyson Fury has never been body beautiful, right? When you look at Tyson Fury, he's never been a guy who has a six-pack. But we know he has we know he's talented, right? We know how talented and skilled Tyson Fury really is, despite the fact that he's never, like I said, had a, six-pack or whatever, right? When it comes to Andy Ruiz, we know he's a good fighter. We know he has fast hands for a guy his size, right? Why? Because we've seen him fight. We've seen him give guys like Joseph Parker, a former world champion, a tough fight. So when it comes to like the hardcore boxing fans, I don't think Eddie Hearn should worry about us at all, because we already know that a fighter's physique means nothing. Like fighters always say, boxing is not a bodybuilding competition. Just because a guy is fat and or does not have a six-pack abs or whatever, does not mean he can't fight. Does not mean he's shit. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, guys that I've mentioned, these guys could fight. Adam Kornacki, Andy Ruiz, Tyson Fury, and these guys are not even, I'm not even going to bring up Joe Romola because he's full of drugs. But, the guys I mentioned, Kornacki, Fury, and Andy Ruiz, all these guys, they're not body beautiful, but they have skills. They could fight. So, yeah, when it comes to the hardcore boxing fans, we know that, physical appearances means nothing. They could still have skills. Like I said, that means nothing. But I do agree to some extent. I mean, yes, maybe a person who's a casual fan who doesn't know who Joshua is or Andy Ruiz is, they might look at that and be like, oh, this bodybuilder who looks like a bodybuilder, I'm referring to Anthony Joshua, and he's fighting a guy like Andy Ruiz, a guy who looks like he works at Nando's, he should win the bodybuilder. So yes, I do think he has a point there. But like I told you guys, when it comes to this fight, the one benefit I think is good. First of all, I think he's a good quality opponent, Andy Ruiz. B, I just think that it's good business wise, just because Andy Ruiz does bring a Mexican following, right? He is Mexican American. He will have Mexican boxing fans, hardcore Mexican boxing fans, tuning in, paying probably a subscription to the Zone just to watch Andy Ruiz fight this champion. Because, when it comes to Mexican heavyweights, there has not been a really a Spanish, a Latino heavyweight. I mean, the last heavyweight who was of Latin descent was who? What's that guy's name? He has the same last name. John Ruiz. Yeah, he has the same last name as Andy Ruiz. John Ruiz. Was he Mexican or Puerto Rican? I forgot, but all I know is he was of Latin descent, right? He was the last heavyweight who was of Latin descent who was a champion, right? And I believe he lost it to James Toney, and then James Toney, the belt to James Toney. Oh, and he also lost the belt. Obviously, no, he lost the belt to Roy Jones Jr. And then I remember he fought James Toney, and James Toney like tested positive for some type of PD test or something. But yeah, he was the last heavyweight boxer of Latin descent to be a champion. So if Andy Ruiz faces Anthony Joshua at Madison Square Garden, by the way, there's a lot of Latin boxing fans in Madison Square Garden over there in New York. You know, just look at whenever Miguel Cotto, when Miguel Cotto was in his prime, when he was fighting in New York City all the time in Madison Square Garden. Look at the amount of Puerto Rican boxing fans that will come out and support him. So there is a lot of Latin people in the Big Apple. I'm telling you, I've been there several times. I've been to New York City, Manhattan several times. A lot of Latino people over there. So I just think that that's good. That's a good thing for Joshua to get into the Latino boxing market, because like I said, even if they don't even know who Andy Ruiz is, the thing about Latino boxing fans is they would watch and support him just because he's Latino, right? It's like, you know what, I don't even know who this guy is, but they would just watch him and support him just because he's Latino. I mean, I could guarantee you there was a bunch of people who paid money to watch Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia, a bunch of Latino fans who paid money for that, who weren't even boxing fans. They just paid because they were like, oh, Mikey Garcia, he's Mexican. I want to see him. I want him to be Errol Spence Jr. just because he's Mexican. And they paid the pay-per-view just to watch. And it'll be the same thing. They'll probably be like, oh, I'll pay DAZN a subscription to watch this fight on DAZN for Andy Ruiz just because he's Mexican, and I'm rooting for him. So, like I said, I think that's why it's a good fight for Anthony Joshua. I mean, so yeah, I don't think he has to worry too much about the physique. But I understand what he's saying when he says, oh, you know, maybe they're going to feel like Andy Ruiz is just this fat guy and this is an easy fight for Joshua because, oh, look, Joshua is a guy who's in shape, is fighting this overweight looking boxer, and it's going to look bad for him facing this overweight looking boxer in the U.S., you know. So I think he feels like that. But like I said, the hardcore boxing fans know Andy Ruiz could fight. So I don't think he has to worry about that. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'm out, man.